Now you might be thinking I have this little website, or I might be doing a little homeschool, or so on and so forth. Listen, you're coming from a legacy of people, of Sahaba radiallahu anhum, who had very high standards. Now imagine these same people, these same Sahaba, if it came to business, do you think that they would have high standards when it came to the hereafter, but when it came to business, they would be like, oh, this is dunya, I have to run away from it? Anything that they did, they had high standards. And so the Prophet ﷺ said about the wealth of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, that there's no wealth that benefited me more than the wealth of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Look at Khadija radiallahu anha. When the Prophet ﷺ would go up to the cave, who was taking care of him? It was his wife Khadija radiallahu anha with her wealth, and she was very wealthy radiallahu anha. Look at Uthman radiallahu anhu, when they had to prepare an army, the army that went out to Tabuk, and the Prophet ﷺ said, who will prepare the army? Who will donate the huge amount of money to prepare this army? Uthman radiallahu anhu was the one who stepped forward and prepared the entire army. Where did they get this money from? Did they get it thinking, oh, you know what, I need to run away from the dunya? Or were they exceptionally smart business people? And so in the dunya and the akhirah, they knew both of them, and they had the highest standards for both. Does that mean that they dressed themselves in the luxuries of the dunya? And the answer is obviously not. In fact, if you look at their lives, they were exceptional in dunya and exceptional in the akhirah, obviously, and they used both for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They used both of them for the sake of Allah azza wa jal. If you look at the Khalifa, starting right at the very top, when the Prophet ﷺ, he was a businessman, correct? You might not remember that, but he was a businessman working for Khadija radiallahu anha, and he was so intelligent in business dealings that when everybody would go to Syria and get their profit from Asham, they would go and make profit and just come back. The Prophet ﷺ would go to Asham, make profit, then buy other commodities, come back to Mecca and sell that again, so he would make double profit. And the Prophet ﷺ was so intelligent in his business dealings and so trustworthy that actually led Khadija radiallahu anha asking to marry the Prophet ﷺ. So Khadija radiallahu anha was a businesswoman. The Prophet ﷺ was a businessman. What about Abu Bakr? Of course, just like the hadith said, the Prophet ﷺ said, no wealth benefited me like the wealth of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Now let's ask the question, what about Umar radiallahu anhu? Was he a businessman? You got that right. Umar radiallahu anhu, it's the same thing. He said one day he would sit with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the other day he would do what? He would sit in the marketplace. The marketplace because he was a businessman. And Umar radiallahu anhu, when he was the Khalifa, he instituted so many businesses and platforms and strategies and marketplaces and chambers of commerce and so on, because they had the highest mindset, a burning desire to establish the system of governance that they learned from their business experience. Look at Uthman radiallahu anhu. Was he a businessman? He was an exceptional businessman, subhanAllah. How many times did he buy Jannah with his wealth? And when it comes to the akhirah, the beautiful thing about aiming high for Jannatul Firdaus, the highest level of paradise, just like the Prophet ﷺ said, is that when you truly aim for the highest level of Jannah, and that becomes your attitude and your mindset, that becomes something that you will implement in every slice of your life. You will try to implement the best and the highest levels in every slice of your life.